Join Gator great Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Today's program, we'll have JC, and then we'll have Mike Morgan from the SEC Network, talk a little SEC hoops. Gators get their first road win of the year, big win against the Missouri Tigers to take their SEC record to 2-3, have Mississippi State this week at home, another must-win game. A lot of good stuff to talk about today. Gators get two players out of the portal, one from Texas, DeAndre Robinson, a big defensive lineman, and a guy from the Alabama Crimson Tide, top-ranked corner, Jameer Grimsley. Speaking of the Alabama Crimson Tide, JC, good morning. Right. I see you've ditched the Buccaneer hat and put on the Lions hat.
I mean, you got now. Who do you root for, right? No, I got it. I mean, who the hell wants San Francisco to win anything, right? So certainly Detroit is having a magical run. I think San Francisco's got some issues, injury on the injury front, perhaps with Deebo Samuel. I'm not sure what his status is. He hurt his shoulder, missed the entire game basically against Green Bay. Green Bay had him, had a chance to win that game, I think just as Buffalo did last night, but couldn't pull it out. And quarterback play at Green Bay, as good as it was, one crucial error there at the end of the game that cost him the win. So, I
thought quarterback play in every game was phenomenal.
Oh, it was, but he made a mistake at the end of the game.
Well, I mean, JC, everybody's going to make a mistake. You don't play perfect games.
What I'm saying is, the first thing they tell you is when you're running to your right.
Did they ever tell you that in flag football?
You know what I'm talking about.
You know, there's a lot of guys.
Jordan Love did great. He did
great.
But
here's the thing. He's made a lot of plays this year.
Yeah, he has.
Doing that. So, I mean, it just happens.
Okay. All right.
But I thought quarterback play in all 4 games were outstanding. I thought the NFL is as good as it's ever been. And what can you say about Pat Mahomes? The guy has gone to the AFC Championship game every year he started. I mean, think about that. That's why I said about 3 years ago on this podcast, I think he will break Brady's records. Brady went to 10 Super Bowls, won 7. Pat's been to three or 4 Super Bowls, won 2.
He's been to 3 and won 2. So
he's
extraordinary. He's extraordinary. And the thing about it is Kansas City Buffalo last night, I think what they have, something like 8 plays for 20 or more yards where Buffalo didn't have any. And poor Josh Allen did all he could, but Buffalo is just really hurting on the defensive end health-wise. They just kept losing player after player after player. They have lost a lot of players on the defensive side. It just was too much to overcome. I think you're set up for a better matchup with Baltimore having Kansas City play them. And I think it could be, a coin flip in this game. You've got two MVP-type quarterbacks playing, and I think one of them's proven it in the playoffs and the other one hasn't. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be some good games. Barone asked on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, why is the NCAA now investigating an NIL issue where the player never got paid a penny and freely went to another school after being let out of his NIL? Obviously, people probably heard Gators are being investigated for the Jaden Rashada disaster. I don't know anything about it, quite honestly. I was very embarrassed when all that noise came out about what we were going to pay this kid, which is stupid. So anyway, JC, do you know who Nick Dunlap is?
I haven't heard the name, but help me out with that. I don't know.
Okay, Nick Dunlap is a golfer. He's a golfer from the University of Alabama.
And he won.
He's an amateur, and he won. You should know your golfers, JC. Don't be a fair weather fan.
I was watching football yesterday. I wasn't watching golf in La Costa, although that's a great place. And good for Nick, man. I mean,
he instead of winning like $1.5 million, he gets a trophy and goes back to Tuscaloosa.
Does he get a card? Does he get a tour card if he wants it?
I don't think so. I don't know how that works. I think the last amateur to win was
Really?
Mickelson, I believe, a long time ago.
So he doesn't.
But I don't even think he played in all their tournaments this year. I don't even think he was one of the top 5 at Alabama during the course of the year. But that goes to show you, golf is crazy, man.
It's a great story. And no, I saw where he won. I forgot he went to Alabama. But the thing about it is, I think he can turn pro and therefore get an exemption for 2 years and get his tour card. I think that's what he can do. I mean, how do you take?
And he says he does have some exemptions now.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's going to be able to play, get status. I don't think he's going back to Tuscaloosa there, QB. So,
No, I guarantee he's going back to Tuscaloosa.
I think he's going to start playing more tournaments.
Well, he's got to turn pro.
That's what I'm saying. He can turn pro and play more tournaments with status. That's what you do.
And probably not make any cuts.
Well, he's got status. It won't matter. He's going to be able to try. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He'll be able to try because he's got his card. I'm believing that's the case. I mean, you win on the PGA Tour, you get an exemption for 2 years, and you get your tour card. So,
all right, we got some Facebook lives here I want to get to. John says,
what do they do with the prize money? They just split it up from second.
That's a great question. I don't know if it goes to second. I don't know what they do with it. Maybe they donate to charity. Doesn't the PGA Tour do a lot for charity?
They do. Yeah.
John says, we make excuses for Buffalo, but when it comes to the Dolphins, is that they are not good. Buffalo, like Miami, is a one-trick. I disagree with that 100%. The Buffalo Bills are a lot better than the Miami Dolphins. Buffalo's had a lot of bad things happen, but they're there. The Dolphins, when have the Dolphins been relevant?
Yeah, both these teams were just destroyed on the injury front. Their players were not available.
Right, but what I'm saying is Buffalo has played in the AFC Championship game.
Yes.
They've been in the divisional round for the last 5 or 6 years. Miami hasn't. So
no, correct.
I don't think there's any comparison to those two teams.
Yeah. No, Buffalo, listen, Buffalo just ran out of guys on the defense. I mean, Josh Allen, he is one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL. We all know this. He can do whatever he wants. And it's just too much to overcome when you can't stop the other team, especially in crucial situations. And especially with Patrick Mahomes. This guy is infallible. He's unflappable. And he's going to show us again on Sunday in Baltimore, where weather will not be an issue, I don't think. So it'll actually be warmer. So this is going to be a good situation for the Chiefs. I think they're relatively healthy, and they will present a much tougher game for Baltimore, I think, than Buffalo, only because of the injury situation.
Yeah, Josh probably had 2 bad plays of the last 2 plays that he ran in the game. He should have hit a shallow cross to Diggs, and then he tried to complete one, throw a touchdown, got kind of bumped as he threw it. Didn't get anything on it. And then he probably thinking in the back of his head is like, we can't kick a field goal here and give the ball back to Pat Mahomes. I need to throw a touchdown right here.
On the first field goal, you did notice, I don't know if you noticed it, but if they had been able to kick it from the other hash mark, maybe that would have helped because everything was pushing to the right, even on their first
field goal. Their kicker likes kicking extra points from that hash because he fades the ball.
He fades it, right.
Many right-footed kickers do not fade the ball.
Yeah, it's too bad. I mean, even if he makes that field goal, we don't know who wins, but that would have given him a chance at least to win. I feel terrible for that fan base. That fan base, QB, it's really sad for that fan base. That fan base lives and dies with the Buffalo Bills. That whole area is about the Buffalo Bills. There's nothing else, and that's just a hard way to go out, man, at home against the hated Chiefs. The hated Chiefs, too.
JC, Jimmy has a question for you here, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Could the Gators fire Billy Napier with calls over these violations and not have to pay his buyout? I mean, we don't even know what I don't think Billy and them had anything to do with the violations, honestly, because this is all a NIL deal. Now, they could. Like I said, I don't know anything about the situation and really don't care.
Yeah, it's not going to be a problem until it's a problem, right? I mean, it's some bad press, maybe, but I don't see the whole world talking about this right now, unless there's more things that come out that become a lot more, a lot worse, I guess, egregious. But I don't know of anything. I read about it. I saw the headline, and that just showed you how much interest I had in it because I didn't read the story. Because when it comes to Jaden Rashada, QB, the last thing I want to talk about is Jaden Rashada. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Why does anybody care? So we'll see.
Bob on the Titan MR text line asks,
follow up on it.
Shane, what are your thoughts on people storming the field or the court? Did you see what happened to Caitlin Clark? Okay, I did. Some people think she faked it. Some people, I don't know. But anyway, did you see it, JC?
I heard about it. Didn't see it.
Okay, well, it was all over Twitter. So
Yeah.
JC, and back in your day when you were holding the camera for TV20 and doing the reporting,
Yes.
did you ever get run over in a field storming incident?
No, I can't say that. Well, no. I mean, we were out there on the field quite a few times, but we did not get run over. They really dissuade that here at Florida. It rarely ever happens, if ever. In fact, it probably never happens, to tell you the truth. So, no, didn't have that issue because I covered the Gators. But there were a couple times on some neutral site games, like the game you played in '92, where people were running around out on the field. I was out there on the field for that. I was out there on the field in '94 when Florida beat Alabama in the SEC championship in Atlanta, and they're all, running out there on the field at the Georgia Dome. I was on the field for that, but it was more about the players and some of the staff than it was fans. I mean, I've never been in a situation, QB, where fans have just flooded the floor. I've never had that. Never had it in my glorious, illustrious career of 8 years in television.
Yeah. Well, it was she took.
They
a
just
shot.
don't do it here. They just didn't do it here, QB.
I don't. Well, you can't. But we have tremendous security here, and I mean, I don't know why you stormed the field anyway, but
yeah. Well.
So anyway, that's my thoughts on this. Tighten our text line from Daryl. It says, JC, why do a lot of Bama fans dislike Dabo Swinney?
I think it's because Dabo beat him a couple times in big games, and he celebrated like it was the greatest thing ever, which it was for him and his program at Clemson. And he's a Clemson Tiger. He's not an Alabama guy. He played in the '80s as a wide receiver for Alabama. And I think if he were to come back to coach Alabama, they would warm up to him. But as far as Alabama fans are concerned, he's a Clemson Tiger. He's not an Alabama
guy. I agree with what Brian says here on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. If Stephon Diggs had a chance to prove that he's an elite receiver,
where was he yesterday?
If he catches that ball,
yeah,
the Bills win the game.
Where was he yesterday? I said the same thing. I said, man, we didn't hear much from 14. And a ball went through his hands that he had to catch. He has to catch those balls. And he's been really good for Buffalo, QB. But, when Kansas City needs somebody to play, to make a play, it happens. When the Niners need somebody to make a play, it usually happens. And it did not for Buffalo, except for number 17. And, they tried. But defensively, they're just not there. Too many injuries. Sorry.
Radware is a family-owned business that prides itself in excellent customer service while providing quality and affordable promotional products and customized apparel. We got JC on the Titan & More hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements, and we'll have Mike Morgan talking SEC basketball.
I'm going to tell you right now, as far as Mike Morgan and SEC basketball, there's only one team right now in the league that I'm really even looking at that I think has a real chance to win it all, and that's an orange team in Knoxville. And the weird scheduling this week, they don't play in the middle of the week, so they play next Saturday. They've won something like 11 straight or 11 out of 12, whatever it is. And they've got Vandy and South Carolina, I think, coming up. They're going to win those 2 games. This team is the complete deal. I'm all on board with them. I mean,
well, let me tell you who I think the best team in the SEC is. It might be the best team in America.
Auburn? Well, no. Auburn is Kentucky.
Kentucky's got their 7-2 foreign exchange player or whatever.
Yeah.
He is as talented as you've ever seen for a 7'2" guy. Well, I'm telling you, it's the best Kentucky team I've seen in the last 15 years.
Yeah, well, they're going to play each other soon. They're going to play at Rupp Arena on February the 3rd, 8:30 game. And so we'll see. It's at Kentucky. I think Kentucky travels to Tennessee at the end of the year in March. But I'm on board with the Big Orange. I think they are the complete team. Now, Kentucky's great, yes. Auburn, I think. Bruce Pearl, dude, that guy just wins. And you can say what you want about Bruce Pearl. All he does is bring you to the dance. Auburn's a very good team. They're going to beat Alabama tomorrow night. I think I kill Alabama. So I hate it.
Where's the game being played?
It's that's always a good question. I mean, that's always an important question because of how it works. But the game's in Tuscaloosa. I still think Auburn beats them.
I bet Alabama wins that game. Frank on the Titan of our text line says, why didn't Tampa Bay call timeout after Detroit took a knee? There was still time left on the clock. I didn't see this portion of the game because after he threw the interception, I just turned it off.
Yeah, now they had 2 timeouts, but it wouldn't have mattered.
It wouldn't have mattered if they're taking a knee.
Detroit still would have been able to run out the clock, even if they called timeout. It does. Look, Tampa Bay played great with all the things that they had in their way. on the injury front and so forth. Baker Mayfield had a great season. Remember something. Baker Mayfield followed the greatest ever. It's not easy to do. Jordan Love followed one of the greatest ever. It's not easy to do. And Baker Mayfield, I think, needs to be signed long-term for Tampa. He is their quarterback. And
I think great.
They get some younger receivers out there. Move on from the Godwins and so forth. And not that he's a bad player, but I think he's just getting older. Get some younger guys out there on the outside for Tampa, and you watch the Bucks get going. They're defensively very good team. But I think Detroit, it's their year. Everybody knew Detroit was winning that game yesterday. And so –
well, they were my team to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's a great call. I mean, it's gonna come out to be true. Did you have Baltimore in the AFC?
No, I had the Bengals. I had the Bengals and the Lions.
Right. Well, it's same division. You almost got it. But
the Bengals didn't even make the playoffs, JC.
I know. Well, that's because of injuries. Once again, it's such a large part of the game and who ends up winning and who ends up losing. It truly is. If you put everybody equal without injuries on the field, you may have different outcomes, of course, and teams playing for the championship. But nevertheless, that's part of the game. It's what happens. It happens every year to somebody. And the ones who avoid that injury bug generally are the ones who last. It's a war of attrition in the NFL. We all know this. And look at Jared Goff. What a career he's having in Detroit. And that trade turns out to be maybe one of the best trades ever for both players. Matthew Stafford gets a Super Bowl. Jared Goff gets a new young team and that doesn't have cap issues, which means they can surround him with great players. Look at Jahmyr Gibbs. Look at Jameson Williams. Look at these players that have Amon St. Brown or whatever. These guys are tremendous players. And the Lions up front on the offensive, defensive lines are animals. So they take the personality from their coach, Dan Campbell. They're going to go to San Francisco with absolutely nothing to lose and no fear. And if San Francisco does not have Deebo Samuel in the game, they are marginalized differently. There's too much pressure on Brock Purdy. I think Green Bay showed us that with
well, you know what I noticed in that game, everybody's talking about Brock Purdy not playing great. What I saw in that game was the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball was won by the Green Bay Packers.
I'm surprised to see that.
Yeah, because the Niners could not run the football.
Right.
And they pressured with four rushers most of the time, Brock Purdy. So anyway,
Detroit's going to come at him too, QB. I mean, Detroit's very aggressive defensively, and they'll come at him.
But you're not understanding what I'm saying. They didn't have to blitz. You as a quarterback, you want teams to blitz you because it gives you opportunities at big plays. But what they did is they pressured with 4 and dropped 7, and that's why the Niners had so much trouble moving the football. And I was surprised. I was surprised at how Green Bay ran it on the 49ers. Because they had the number 1 rush defense in the league. They ran it right down their throats. Everybody on here wants to update on your minivan, JC.
Well, this is a summer thing, so give me some time. I'm looking.
Oh, you're going to do some research, and
well, I got to. I mean, now people are telling me the Honda Odyssey instead of the Chrysler Pacifica. I'm really into the Chrysler Pacifica for some reason. But, if the Honda Odyssey is the ticket, then we'll go that route. But we're going to go with something. I love it too much. It was too fun. I just booked a trip to Jackson, Mississippi. I'm going there twice in the next 2 months. And I really considered almost renting another minivan to drive there. And then I remembered that once you get to Biloxi, it's another 3 hours. And I decided, no, Delta is just fine. So I just think, though, that minivan makes traveling so enjoyable. It's just so much more fun. And especially if you're with a crew. If you've got a crew, QB, once in a while, maybe you can get out of the house and enjoy.
I do, but I'm not going. I'm going to drive myself.
I don't mean getting out of the house to go to the University of Florida in your Tahoe. I'm talking about driving out somewhere and having fun. But that's okay, QB. I get it. I just like the minivan. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, well, we'll have to get some photos of you driving.
It's a beautiful thing. I'm going to download them. I'm going to send Zach the Chrysler Pacifica I drove to Mississippi here recently. Everybody's going to be thrilled. It's just a very comfortable. It's all about comfort when you get to be my age, folks. It's all about comfort. And your age.
1966 HBC beers available at Spurs, Gridiron Grill, Gator Games in the O-Dome. Select retail outlets. Crisp American Lager 1966 HBC beer.
So
a few more minutes with JC here. Greg says Tampa doesn't want teams to blitz because they can't pick it up. White is Tampa's ETN. Well, I thought Tampa picked it up. You're going to get hit when teams blitz. It doesn't mean you want guys coming free because then somebody else is open. It's a lot to talk about. JC, everybody's talking about all the birds. Do you have a bird sanctuary
well, we got
there?
crows growing crazy around here. The crows in the bird bath over there, scaring away all the pretty birds like the blue jays and the cardinals. This damn crows. It's crow heaven over here between that and squirrels. I don't. Gainesville's got too many trees. Can we get rid of some of these damn trees that are everywhere? It's just, especially on the golf course. God, it's so much. But Jimmy M asked, "What color van did I get?" That was a black one. It was a black one, Jimmy. Probably too hot to drive in the summer. Thank you though for asking. I don't know, QB. The bird sanctuary is alive and well here. Sometimes I had a friend. You and I have a friend in Jackson, Mississippi, who loves hunting. He hunts turkeys all the time. You know what I'm talking about, right? He has his own little farm and everything. When he was visiting my house here, he had an app on the phone that actually made bird sounds and talked to the birds. So he said, "Johnny, listen to this." And he goes in there and he types something in and the birds start going. Dip, 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 dip. All of a sudden, we had a concert going on in the magnolia tree and in the oak tree. It was the greatest. It was most.
Well, maybe you should get that. Maybe you should get that app and see if you can talk to the birds.
It was singing to the birds. I mean, we've got just a plethora of species here in the forest. I just think it was a lot of fun to listen to. I'm sure the audience is thrilled by this, but I enjoyed it. So QB, Alabama got a couple more players. They're not losing everybody. They got a couple players come from Washington. I think this whole transfer portal thing with the coaches leaving, you get 30 days to do something. Once that's over, we get to the March transfer portal, things will start to flatten out a little bit or balance out.
Well, y'all lost a lot of players.
They sure have.
Yeah. So, JC, our Peachland Dental
how'd you do?
Up-to-date NFL picks. I'm 6-2. You're 3-5, by the way.
What I had this weekend? I had the Packers.
You went 2-2 this weekend.
Again, 2-2. So if I go 2-2 the previous weekend and I go 2-2 this weekend,
you went 1-3 last week. The first weekend.
Are you sure I didn't go 2-2? You said on Monday's show last
week. I went 4-0. And then I went 2-2 this week.
2-2. Oh, QB, your record keeping is flawed.
Well, that's your job, and you're not doing it, and I am. So now the golf tournament, you won because Xander came in third.
Yeah, it's his home course.
My next best player came in like 12th, I think.
If you did some homework and some research once in a while, you would have known that Xander, one of your favorite golfers, is playing on his home course, QB.
Well, I didn't care about that because in this stupid tournament on PGA Tour where they play at 3 different golf courses, usually some dude named Nick Dunlap you never heard of wins it.
Well, yeah, it's a great area to play golf. I will say that. Lacoste is just tremendous. I think they're going to Torrey Pines this weekend, QB. I think it's the Farmer. Yeah, so yes. we get the stars, the superstars back. And listen, I'm not going to miss the guys who are on live. I don't care 2 cents if I watch Dustin Johnson or these guys play. There's just as much fun. It's just as much fun for me watching. I just like good golf. I'd rather see somebody like Nick Dunlap win anyway. So
JC John on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law, says you need to get a scarecrow and put in your backyard.
Yeah, this is a good point, John. Thank you. I'll have to look at that. By the way,
you'd have to check with the homeowners association on that.
Yeah, well, we have a news alert. I'm gonna go buy a lawnmower. I let go of the. Do you have a lawnmower I can borrow?
No, I do not have a lawnmower.
Okay, I let go of the lawn service guy at least until April or May. I'm gonna tackle this estate on my own.
JC, when's the last time you cranked a lawnmower? Or have you ever cranked one?
Yeah, 1992. Yeah, 1992.
All right,
lived in church. Yeah, you got to pull the thing, put the gas in there. It gets messy.
Tony wanted me to ask you where Dunlap played golf, and I did that at the beginning of the show, and you didn't know.
Tony. Thanks, Tony. Tony, I was watching the NFL this weekend, and it was a lot of fun to watch.
You're obviously not an Alabama golf booster.
No, they take my NIL money and go wherever they want to with it. Whoever they want to give it
to. Joseph says no mention of Jameer Grimsley. I did at the beginning of the show, Joseph. I don't know what else you want me to say. We got two. Like I said, we got 2 transfers out of the portal: Jameer Grimsley, DeAndre Robinson.
So make sure you ask Mike for me. if he thinks Tennessee is the real deal.
Well, we talked about it last week. The three best teams in the league were Kentucky,
Yeah.
Tennessee, and Auburn.
And Auburn, yeah. But I'll take Tennessee this year to win the conference. You take Kentucky. We'll see how.
I got Kentucky.
And either
I got
one.
Kentucky. I'm going to go ahead and I'm picking Kentucky to win the national title.
No, too young. Ain't happening. Connecticut will beat them. Connecticut will lock them down.
We'll see.
Yeah. I go with a little bit more of experienced teams, but Kentucky's good. They're good. They're very good. But
all right, let's get to this day in sports. Brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life. Campus USA Credit Union. All right, this day in 1988. Oh, that's the wrong one. Where did it go? Oh goodness, I lost it. Anyway, I forgot. I don't know where it went, but I had it right here. It was after winning. Here it is. After winning in 1989, after winning his third Super Bowl as the head coach of the 49ers, Bill Walsh retires. That's this day in sports, brought to you by Campus USA.
Poor Bill Walsh.
The more I think about it,
yeah,
Andy Reid's only won 2 Super Bowls, correct?
That I'm aware of, yes.
He's clearly a Hall of Famer, but he may go down as one of the greatest NFL coaches of all time. Think about it. Absolutely. I want to say he took the Eagles to 4 straight NFC championship games. I know they made it to 1 Super Bowl, maybe 2.
They did. Lost to the Patriots.
Okay. But now he's taken the Chiefs to 6 straight. I mean,
6 straight
that's
what?
Unbelievable.
Super
6 straight AFC championship games.
AFC championship, sure. Yeah.
No, he went 4 straight NFC championship games. Now he's gone 6 straight.
Yeah. They dominate. They're just like the Patriots dominating the AFC East. So they dominate the NFC West. And the Raiders' pathetic ownership and management of that team, along with the Chargers, who were so woefully managed, and the Broncos, who've just slipped in recent years, has really allowed Kansas City to just flat out dominate with the best player in the league. When you've got the best player in the league at the most important position, and you re-sign guys who are on the defensive line making Pro Bowls, and you sign tight ends who are superstars and celebrities, and you sign, you've got an offensive line. When they lost the Super Bowls because Tampa dominated them on the offensive and defensive lines, but these guys, they draft well, and they've got the best player on the field. When you got the best player,
they do, but he doesn't have weapons like he used to.
No, he doesn't.
If I'm them this year in the first round, I take the top receiver in the league.
So yeah, but who the hell is Isaiah Pacheco? I mean, come on.
He's a tremendous running back.
Yeah,
what I'm talking about their wide receivers aren't what they've had the past few years.
Well, it almost cost him because giving that ball to Hardman yesterday. I mean, he touches the ball twice in the game, and you give it to him on the goal line
he's a guy they had a few years ago.
Yeah,
sent him off to some other team, brought him back. So we got to get to Mike Morgan and talk about something that's worth talking about.
Talk about the Vols. I want to know what he thinks about Tennessee and Kentucky in a comparison. Go ahead.
All right, that's JC. Join us on the Titan No More Hotline. Take a quick timeout. Come back. We'll be joined by Mike Morgan, SEC Network, ESPN broadcaster. You're watching and listening PodUp with Matthews in the Morning. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, watch. Duffield Home Improvements for your window, siding, and roofing needs. Radware, your local provider of promotional products, uniforms, and apparel. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Radware, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Q Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, and of course our chicken and waffles. Plus, you can enjoy bottomless mimosas and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Silverback Concrete's a family-led team of heavy concrete specialists that build commercial structures with unrivaled quality. Silverback Concrete, you stand on it, we stand by it. We're going to go back to the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. And Mike Morgan is going to join us. He's brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Good morning, Mike. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing well, Shane. The voice is a little shot after Saturday in Lexington, but I'm battling the cold. It was ridiculous. I might as well have been in Minneapolis, but it was a great game to call, and looking forward to a couple great ones this week, including Wednesday in Gainesville.
So you have the Gainesville game down here. Yeah, I saw bits and pieces of that Kentucky game. I just told JC, he wants to know, I told him the best three teams are obviously Auburn, Tennessee, and Kentucky. I think Kentucky, I picked them just now on my show to win the national title. I think with the Big Z or whatever his name is, that is one of the most skilled big men I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, for those that don't know the story, and I know it kind of went viral on Saturday, but things get lost in the shuffle when you're going up against the NFL playoffs. But here's this kid, who they call Big Z. Ivicic is his last name. He's from Croatia. He's 7'2", kind of long and lanky. And I've seen him in practice a number of times. This is my fourth or fifth Kentucky game of the year. But every time I asked it, well, is he going to be eligible? Well, we're waiting on the NCAA. And you know how that goes. That they take their sweet time and they have no rhyme or reason for anything they seem to do. So I go to shoot around on Saturday morning at 11 o'clock, and still Nosey not eligible. No big deal. I mean, Kentucky's playing lights out without him. And then I get a text message right after I left shoot around. Hey, he just got word. This is how they told him, by the way, Shane. The NCAA sent an email. Hey, by the way, he's eligible. You can play him. That's how they got the news. They've been waiting on this for months. And this poor kid, who's away from his home country and family and friends, has had to sit there and rot on the bench. And he finally gets a courtesy email to let him know he could play. So the plan was, we'll get him in 3, 4, 5 minutes and let him get his feet wet, and the crowd will give him an ovation. Kentucky fans paid $4,000 to buy a billboard across the street from the NCAA that said "Free Z" with a picture of the young man, which I thought was pretty clever. So he goes out there, and we're thinking, well, again, he's just going to get his feet wet. And then what does he do? Well, he blocks a shot. Okay, he's 7'2". A lot of 7'2" guys block shots. Well, then what does he do? He hits a three. All right, anybody can get lucky on a shot. Then he hits another three. Then he gets the ball on a fast break. He's at the free throw line, and he goes behind the back to Reeves, one of the best three-point shooters in the league, hits him on the wing for a three. That's when I'm like, okay, this kid is special. He goes on to hit 2 more shots. He goes on to block another shot, pick up 2 steals. And at that moment, you had a media sensation born before our eyes. And again, this is a Kentucky team, for a while I've said, is already the most talented team in the league. This is not your typical Cal team just full of a bunch of 5-star guys, very often who don't play well together, who don't seem particularly skilled, athletic, but not particularly skilled. This is a different group of dudes. They're the most talented team in the country, Shane, not just the SEC. Does that mean they're going to win it? No. Most talented team doesn't always win in basketball. This is not football. But I'm telling you right now, you add this kid to that loaded roster, they don't turn it over. They lead the league in three-point shooting. They lead the country in scoring. They're unselfish, and they're deep, and they're big, and they're fast. What more do you want?
No, I agree 100%. They, he's always had great players, but they had trouble scoring, and they got scores now. Tennessee just dismantles Alabama on the road. I don't think that surprised a whole lot of people. Tennessee's loaded as well. What did you take out
Mm.
of that game?
Well, first off, you hit the nail on the head. I think we're now in a couple of different tiers, and I think tier one is clearly Kentucky, Tennessee, Auburn. And Alabama's not far away. Like, nobody wants to go to Coleman Coliseum and play Alabama, but I don't think they're quite to the level of those other three teams. And Tennessee is right there. Nobody's beaten Tennessee at home yet. I had Tennessee's one conference loss, and that was at Mississippi State, which happens to be the Gators' opponent on Wednesday. Mississippi State just came up with more plays down the stretch, but make no mistake about it, Tennessee's really good. The Dalton Connect kid, again, if you haven't seen him play yet, he's just different. He is an NBA guy, wired to score, 6'6", can elevate, pretty jump shot. When I first saw him, I'm watching him shoot, and I know a couple of NBA scouts, and they're like, yeah, we're looking at him. Don't know if he could play defense. And I'm like, well, who plays defense in the NBA anymore? But so the shot was there. I knew that just watching him warm up. But what I didn't realize that he's athletic. Like, he's got hops. So he's their difference maker. You know, Ziegler is still good, and Vescovy and Adu's a rim protector. But what puts them over the top is Connect. He's one of the few players in college basketball that on any given night he can give you 35. He's a complete dynamo on the offensive end.
Let's talk about the Gators. You have the game against Mississippi State. They got a big win in Columbia, Missouri. It was a must-win to get to 2-3.
Yeah.
I like this Gator team. Now, obviously, we didn't play well in Knoxville, but they found a way to win a road game, which was very huge.
Well, first off, ordinarily I would have been like, Shane, you can't say must win. It's only mid-January. But in this case, I think you're 100% right. I think they had to win that game on the road at Mizzou. If you don't, you're NIT bound. If everything goes well, you're NIT bound. As of now, you're still in the fight. And I'm like you. I like this roster. I really do. He's got a good combination of bigs, of shooters. I love the way Pullen plays the game. He controls the game, which I want my college point guard to do. Kugel flashes, and you need to see more Riley Kugel be that kind of player. Clayton, I mean, there's a lot to like, but for whatever reason, they haven't gotten off to the start they want to. But I still think they're capable of going on a run. At this point, I mean, you need to win almost every game at home. You've got to defend your home court, and that begins on Wednesday against I wouldn't say very talented, I'd say very good Mississippi State team that made the NCAA tournament last year and has almost everybody back this year. And then they added a scorer in the freshman Hubbard, who he looks like a fire hydrant, but man, he can get you buckets, and he'll certainly be on the top of the scouting report for Coach Golden and company. But yeah, win your home games and then steal a couple on the road. But there's a lot to like about this roster. Just every team peaks at a different time in college basketball. I don't think Florida has peaked yet. I don't think they've played their best basketball yet, and maybe that'll start on Wednesday.
Yeah, they have to win Wednesday, and you got to stop Tolu Smith. He's the guy that kind of makes their team go, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no mystery to his game, right? He's 6'11". He's a big body. He always seems to find a way to get rebounds, not just because he's big, but he's aggressive. He'll knife in there. He'll carve out space. And before you know it, he's got a double-double. So the good thing is Florida can throw multiple big bodies at him. You don't have to rely on like a guy like Castleton, where if he got in foul trouble, well, now what? What's our plan B? We didn't have a plan B. Now you've got multiple guys near 7 feet that can bang with him. He's going to get his. That's just, you kind of live with that. But what I would really like to see is them control their guards. And then what I'm really concerned about against a team like State is offensively, are you going to be efficient? Because Mississippi State can turn the game ugly as well as anybody. That's who they are. They lock you down defensively, and they take you out of things that you want to run. So is Florida up to the challenge? Are they going to play a crisp and efficient game offensively? I think that'll be key.
We didn't touch on Auburn, one of the best teams in the league. They have not lost in league play. They go to Coleman Coliseum tomorrow night. It's a tough place to play. I think Alabama wins the game. I haven't watched Auburn much this year. You know they're athletic. You know they're going to play tough. They usually have trouble scoring the basketball, though, it seems like. Do they have scorers this year?
They have them, Shane, but here's how they do it compared to years past. Like, they don't have a lottery pick. They don't have a Jabari Davis. They don't have a guard that's going to, get 20 a night like so many of Bruce's Pearls teams do. What they have is the deepest team in the way they use their depth. I haven't seen this from anybody else in the country. They play 10 guys 15 minutes or more. You find me another team in college basketball that does that. And none of the 10 are like dead weight. Like, they all do something well. So they don't have star power like some of Bruce's teams do. It's a combination of the parts that causes you problems, and they just try to wear you down over time. When you got 10 guys that can play 15 minutes, that exhausts the other team. Even with TV timeouts and everything else, you just see them kind of choke other teams down in the final few minutes of the game, especially at that arena. Like, I don't think anybody beats Auburn this year in Auburn. Now, on the road at Coleman, that's a different story. And if Alabama plays, and Sears has just been lights out this year, love his game. I think it's going to be a great matchup, but I'm with you. I would give Alabama the edge at home.
Rose Ogre State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visitogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. Mike Morgan from the SEC Network, and he is on the Titan More Hotline courtesy of Campus USA Credit Union. We got a text here from Bob. It's kind of long. It's talking about your broadcasting. His question is, I'm going to paraphrase it. Why in basketball, Mike, do you have a different color analyst, it seems like, every time you broadcast a game, whereas in football you have the same guy?
Right. It's not quite that dramatic, but I know where he's coming from. I mean, for example, I had John Sunbold, and I've worked with John for a dozen years at ESPN on and off, and love working with him. But if you've caught the other games, I've been with Mark Wise. And Mark and I have been the most consistent duo. So there's just more mixing and matching. How they come up with that calculus, none of us know. We all just sit there and wait for the email to come out and tell us where we're going and who we're working with. I think they just figure there's enough guys that they have confidence in to work well together. And I love working with all these guys. I mean, I love working with Mark. I love working with Sonny. I've known these guys for years. Damian Fishback, Joe Klein. I mean, you name it, Dane Bradshaw. But there's no rhyme or reason. They try to keep kind of the number one team, Dykes and Ravitch, together for the most part. But then, baseball gets in the way for Carl Ravitch. And so then you'll see I had Dykes for a game earlier this year. They mix and match in baseball and basketball, and they try to keep it consistent in football.
Gotcha. Andy has a question for you on Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law. Do you think the incident with Caitlin Clark yesterday will lead the NCAA to do something about court storming?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I've always thought we're one moment in time like that away from it being completely banned. I have no problem with court storming. I think it's one of the coolest looking things. And if you're watching the game on TV and you see it, it's such a neat experience. The problem is a moment like that. And there's been others where maybe, a player doesn't get collided with, but there's some smack talk. There's getting in a player's face, and you don't want to do that. I mean, you're asking for a butt whooping. If they're a player who just, gave his blood, sweat, and tears, loses a game, and you're out there mouthing off near his face, you deserve to be clocked. If you're going to storm the court, just go there and celebrate with your team, but get the hell out of the way of the opponents. We already have fines in the SEC, and a lot of the arenas now put the ropes up and make sure you can't storm. I'm afraid that if a couple more incidents like that, and we'll just eliminate it altogether.
Yeah. George in Nashville on the Titan text line says, Mike, your thoughts on all the Bama players leaving the school?
It's a sign of the times. Players don't go to particular football programs because of the science department. They go because of the coach, right? Nick Saban was the allure for a lot of those players. It wasn't because, they love the sushi restaurant in downtown Tuscaloosa, which is actually pretty good, by the way. Not quite Dragonfly quality, but it's pretty good. You have a situation now where guys are going. They're looking strictly business. What's their best scenario? And for most of those, it was, I want to play for Nick Saban. Look at what he's done. Look at how many first-round draft picks he had. So the moment that he left, you had to expect some, to use a business term, leakage. So they got a lot of leakage right now. But eventually that's going to get patched up. They're still going to recruit well. They still are going to pay NIL money, and Kalen DeBoer, I believe, will do good things there. I just don't think anybody is going to do what Nick Saban did in the rest of our time on planet Earth. I don't see another coach winning 7 national titles, be it at Alabama or anywhere else. So this was a year you had to expect to lose a lot of players in the portal. But I don't think anyone's going to shed a tear for Bama because they're going to get their fair share of guys as well.
Yeah, for sure. Let's switch gears a little bit. You called a bunch of NFL games this year. I know you were working. I don't know if you got to see all the playoff games this weekend, but it was phenomenal football. Any thoughts out of any of those games? It's just amazing to me when you look at Pat Mahomes. We all know he's a tremendous player, probably the best player in the league, but I didn't know this until they said it on after the game. He started every year he's been to the AFC Championship game. That's just remarkable.
Yeah. Well, it is. And I mean, they've got a machine going on. You've got one of the best offensive minds ever be out there in Andy Reid. With all due respect to Eric Bieniemy, like that's Andy Reid's offense, and they're always going to be the most innovative and creative, and they make adjustments. Pat Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league, and so it's not. Even though they were suffering from something, I don't know what they. Well, I mean, for one, they led the league in drops. He doesn't have a cheetah out there blowing the lid off the defense like before. They have to do it in more creative ways. But kudos to them. As a Josh Allen fan, I thought he was terrific last night. But you've got to get him a number one receiver. Stephon Diggs is not a number one. He's too little. He drops the ball way too much. He pouts. And I know Gabe Davis was hurt, the former UCF star, but he's not a number one either. Like, you got to go in the draft and give my man some help. Yeah, like Mahomes has had Kelsey all these years. What has Josh Allen had? You've got to get him a stud wide receiver, a true go-to guy that can really make an impact. And then the one time Diggs gets open deep, he drops the ball. That changes the entire game. So that was the game I was looking forward to the most, Shane, and it lived up to the billing. But I hope at some point, because I think Josh Allen is going to be special for a long time to come, just like Pat Mahomes is. But I want to see them get him a little bit of help.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I love Josh Allen as well. Tampa loses a heartbreaker. I picked the Lions in the summer to go to the Super Bowl. What a great
Did you
story.
really?
But yeah, I had the Lions playing the Bengals in the Super Bowl.
Good for you, man.
Yeah. I'm buddies with Mark Brunell. He's their quarterback coach, so he was pretty high on his team. So I had a little insider information, I guess. But
what
a story that is with Jared Goff, and now they got to go play the Niners, who struggled against Green Bay. How do you see that game playing out?
You're like the Gordon Gecko, getting inside information and using it for your picks. Be careful now. Gecko eventually got arrested.
That was before training camp started, so it wasn't a whole lot of great information.
Okay, I just don't want you to go down the path of Michael Douglas and Wall Street. No, I had the 49ers this year earlier out there in San Francisco or nearby. They're in the suburbs now. They're a complete team. I mean, and Purdy, like, I remember walking down on the field with my partner, Brian Baldinger, and standing next to this guy, and he looks like an accountant. He's not that big. He's not that athletic, and he's got this baby face, but man, oh man, he He knows how to play that position, and he knows how to use the weapons around him. Now, they need Deebo Samuel. They're a different team without a healthy Deebo Samuels. I don't know what the latest is on that, but if you got a healthy Deebo, you got Kittle at tight end, you got McCaffrey having an MVP season, and you've got a defense that gets after the passer as well as anybody. I love that team. I really do. I think Detroit's a tremendous story, but I think San Francisco's a better team.
Yeah. All right. Let's before we get you out of here, Lamar Jackson's probably going to win the MVP. I believe he's only won one playoff game in his career. He's one game away from getting to his first Super Bowl. Do you think the Titans get it done? Titans.
You mean the Ravens?
The Ravens. Yeah.
I do. That's another team that I actually called one of their few losses this year. They lost a game to Cleveland, and Lamar threw a big pick six late in that game, and that was the knock on Lamar going into this postseason. He's not been a good postseason quarterback. He just hasn't. But he was certainly outstanding and kind of a mismatch in the first game. This will be a greater test. I mean, this Kansas City's defense, like, they're hot and cold, but they always seem to make great adjustments at the half, and always seem to maybe the coaching outdoes some of the talent. I don't know if they're the most talented defense, but I think it's a terrific matchup, and I want to see what Lamar does now, and obviously the biggest game of his life with the Super Bowl on the line, and with Kansas City maybe causing a few more problems than Buffalo, a banged up Buffalo team that had cab drivers playing linebacker by the end of the season. I think it'll be a lot of fun to watch. I will never bet against Pat Mahomes in the postseason. But I think really Baltimore is as complete a team as any in the NFL. If they're ever going to get to the Super Bowl, this would feel like the year to do it, especially having the number one seed and getting to play at home.
Yeah. I wanted to just finish on this. John Harbaugh, I've never met him. I've met Jim. I was a teammate of Jim's at the Bears. I just saw him dancing in the locker room. He seems like a great player's coach. Is there any comparison to those two guys, or are they just totally different?
I think they're different because, and you were around Jim certainly more than I have been, but every time I see Jim interviewed, it just seems so awkward. Yeah. And I've got a couple of buddies who are big Michigan fans, including one of my high school teammates who was my quarterback in high school, a kid named Remy Hamilton, who wound up being a kicker, beat Notre Dame on a last-second field goal. And they all say the same thing. Like, they love Harbaugh, love him, but they all say, man, is he awkward. He's just socially awkward. We all know people like this, right, Shane? Like, they're good guys, but you get them in a social setting, and it's just weird. They don't mean to be weird. They're just weird, and that's Jim. He can't help it. He's just a weird dude.
Yeah, he really is. Mike, okay, you're calling the game against for the Gators against Mississippi State Wednesday night. You got anything this weekend?
I do. I go straight from there to Columbia, South Carolina. The Gamecocks taking on Mizzou. Gamecocks are one of the better stories this year in the league. Right now, they would be in the big dance. I think the SEC is a lock to get 8. The question is, could you somehow get 9? Which Florida would certainly be in that discussion. Obviously, Florida fans are hoping that the league gets 9. But Carolina just picked up a big win at Arkansas. They're not the most talented team at all. In fact, I would tell you Florida's a more talented team, but they're just playing some good, heady basketball. Got a really good point guard, doesn't make mistakes, and they're well coached by Lamont Paris. So that's my first time I will have seen them this year. And again, I've seen the Gators a few times. Looking forward to Wednesday night in Gainesville. Hopefully we got a great crowd. I hope the fans come out and support that team.
No doubt. Mike, we appreciate your time. Safe travels, buddy, and we'll talk to you soon.
Shane, always enjoy it. Sorry for the voice, man, but appreciate the time.
Well, go gargle some hot water or whatever you announcers do.
You know it.
Yeah,
Take care.
That's Mike Morgan joining us on the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Campus USA Credit Union. That's going to do it for today's program. Everybody wants to investigate my picks now. My picks have been terrible just because I picked the Lions. No inside information. Brunel just loves Jared Goff and said they were going to be very good, and they are. So I hope y'all enjoyed today's program. Same time, same place tomorrow, folks. Have a great day. Take care. See you then.